Hey everybody! In today's tutorial, I am bringing up an old technique, like really old, that's so fun for making hologram style images. The supplies for this are really pretty simple. I have a list below. I have this beautiful wood grain paper that I'm going to be really indecisive about later in this video. And I'm using some Concord and Ninth black ink, some very thin Foodservice foil sheets. The thinner, the better for your foil. I really like the Foodservice ones that you can get on Amazon. They are the perfect thickness for this technique. You'll also need a heat-resistant acetate sheet and some permanent adhesive, as well as your trusty scraper. So I have the heat-resistant acetate set up in my mini Misty, and because this ink is a little thicker and a little stickier, I'm only going to have to stamp this once. So I'm just prepping the surface with my powder tool before inking up the stamp and pressing it down. Because it's in the Misty, you don't have to worry about your stamp sliding around on the acetate. You'll get a really surprisingly great impression with this. And because the ink stays wet a little bit longer, it's perfect for embossing, which is what we are going to do next. So I'm using clear embossing powder. I like using the combination of the black ink and the clear powder, because stray powder is not going to be seen anywhere on this image. And luckily, this is a technique where you really don't have to get everything perfect, which, you know, that's my favorite. So now I'm going to heat emboss this, and I am just focusing on the fish. So you'll notice that I'm not concentrating anywhere but on the fish's body. That's the only thing that I'm going to be turning into a little hologram today. This was a tutorial on split coast a while back, but this is one of the earliest techniques I remember doing. And a friend of mine, when I was doing a live, said she actually did this as a child in the 70s, making a little rainbow hologram. And you know how I feel about kids' crafts. Kids' crafts are the best. So you want to flip the image over. You don't want to color on the embossed side. And I'm using Olo markers to add color to the fish. And I have a little tip for you here. So I kept the colors separate at first. And there's a special way that you can kind of blend them on a non-porous surface to kind of eliminate some of the hard lines that you get when you're coloring on plastic. So first I just blend at the edge of the red color, but you can see I still have a little line that forms there. So I clean my marker off on my glass mat and then work that line again. So you clean, work, and eventually you're going to soften all of those lines and get as close as you can get to blending on a non-porous surface. You could also do palette blending, which I have a video on my channel, to apply the color in the first place, but I liked these bold colors, and you can see what that looks like from the other side. It's really neat. And then we'll turn it into a hologram. So I'm smoothing out the center just a little bit with the green marker. This is just 2 markers. So a lime green and a coral is like imprinted in my brain for fish, and so that's what I do. I do think this technique would be beautiful with koi. It's great with a bunch of different images. So now you want to take your thin piece of foil and crumple it up and then very carefully smooth it out. You don't want to tear it at this stage, so take your time and do this very slowly. Then take your scraper and flatten the foil even more, and it gets this wonderful reflective pattern and texture to it that is going to look so cool behind our fish. So once that is all spread out, take a similarly sized piece of strong adhesive. So this is a permanent adhesive sheet. The top part is just the liner sheet. This is the part with the adhesive on it. and apply that to your foil. So sticky side down onto the foil and then burnish that really, really well. This is important for the success of this technique. Now, when you are removing the final liner paper, keep that corner that you're pulling on very low and parallel to the surface that is still stuck to the foil. This is going to minimize any tearing. You will not tear it if you do this slowly and carefully with that parallel edge. So now this is all sticky, so you will take the back side, the non-embossed side of your image, and stick that to the foil. And now I have this shiny holographic fish. It's so fun. So on the embossed side, I'm now going to cut this fish out of the image. If you wanted to die cut it, you could. You would just have a silver line around the edge of your image. So I chose to fussy cut it. This is a very simple image to cut out, and it's very easy to cut through the acetate and the foil together, but you certainly could use dies if you wanted to. But look how he almost looks like a lure. You know those metallic lures that are so much fun, whatever that technology is? This looks like that as well, so that's another good candidate. But it's shiny from the acetate, but it's also shiny from the foil, and the colored part of the foil really makes it look holographic and fun. Very, very neat, easy technique. So now I just need to decide what kind of paper I want to put this on. I have 3 double-sided sheets, so I have 6 possibilities. And I'm going to just mount the fish in the center of that little plaque. I was going to color this, but I decided to leave it white because the fish is so colorful and shiny. I thought that maybe everything else should stay pretty simple. I think I kind of like the cool blue in contrast to the warm colors in my fish, but the gray looks nice too. You really can't go wrong with any of these wood grain. This kind of distressed one looks neat too. So I cut out my favorite sentiment from the sentiment set, which says there's nothing you can't tackle. I feel like that's just an all-around encouraging sentiment that is going to work great with this card. So I think I am going to do the blue after all. After all of this indecision and hemming and hawing, I'm going to use my glue press. Don't worry if you get a little nub of glue on the end. It's still never going to clog. Just take that off. And then I'm going to position the fish sort of in and out of this frame. The little, remember Billy the Bass? When was that? The 80s, the 90s, the singing fish on the plaque. That's totally what I think of every time I use this stamp set. So it kind of cracks me up. What was he singing? I don't even remember the song. I just remember that it was everywhere in a certain decade. So I'm probably dating myself, but it is what it is. Okay, so I will mount the little sign onto the pattern paper and then add the sentiment, and then I can pop this onto a card base with my holographic fish. This also would be great for water. It'd be great for anything where you want that sort of hologram illusion. It's so much fun and so easy, so I do hope you try it. Here's what the finished cards look like. Head over to my blog for more information, and thanks so much for watching.